Hi Book Dragons, I just want to do my October reading wrap up. Now normally I do a mid-month reading wrap up, but I was having such a rough reading month, I did not decide to do that. So you may have to tuck in and slow it down a bit because this may take me a while to do. I did not have the best reading month in October. October was a very, very busy month. I did go to Comic-Con and it was just a little bit of a chaotic month, but I always do stats, so if you're not a stats girly like me and my elk are, then you guys can skip, but your girl just has to do her stats. I think this is probably one of my lowest reading months I've ever had. Okay, in May I read 11 books, which was my lowest by far. June I read 14, which was pretty low. And September I read 14, so about the same that I read in June. Okay, so not actually as awful as I was expecting, but I did read a lot less than I normally do just because it was very, very busy. But I read 4,765 pages. I read an average page count of 153 pages per day. I did read some very, very long books at the start of the month and actually some longer physical books as well. My average page count was 340, which is typical. Like I normally read around 340 to 360 pages per book. I did read a lot of graphic novels. I didn't change it on the spreadsheet because I liked it to track everything, but this is manga and I did read a lot of graphic novels. And then I read 6 books with reps, 4 from authors I read before, and I have hauled no books. I have given up tracking books this year. It just was too overwhelming. So, especially because I just got back from Comic-Con and a lot of those were free, so don't track those anyway. But if you do watch my reading vlogs, you will see when I get books in. I had 1 5-star this entire month. Everything I read was like 4 or 3 stars, so I didn't have any standouts except the last book that I read. And then I had 9 4-stars, 2 3.5 stars, 1 3-star for an average rating of 3.64. I read 10 new releases, 2 backlists, 0 from last year, and I also read 2 books coming out in 2026. I read 7 physical, 7 audio, and I didn't read on my Kindle before bed. I just had a my brain just could not focus this month when I went to bed, and I think that I'm going to suffer for that, so yeah. And then I started 3 series, I continued in 3, I completed 1, and I caught up with 2 series, and I read 6 standalones, and I read 2 middle grade, 1 YA, and 11 adult. I did read a lot of like witchy paranormal romances this month. I read 4 ARCs, 5 from Audible, 0 from KU, 0 from the library, 0 from NetGalley, and 4 owned, and 1 from Everand. And then I read 2 fantasy romance, 1 nonfiction, 3 manga or graphic novels, and then I read 3 mystery, 2 romances, 2 paranormal, 1 fantasy. So that is where we are with that. And now let's get into the books. So the first book that I finished in the month of October, it was on the first day of the month, was A Dance of Lies by Brittany Arena. This was the fantasy romance I was reading to finish Mel's Reading Rebellion in September. And I like this book. I gave this book 4 stars. I actually did enjoy it. I don't think it was a new favorite. I think there was a little bit of pacing issues throughout the whole book, but it was a book that I liked. It was a quick read. I liked the fantasy romance. It was disability rep in here. It was politically interesting, and I really did like it. I just felt like the book had a bit of a pacing issue and I wasn't as fully connected to the characters as I was hoping. So I gave this book 4 stars, but I definitely am keeping this book, and it definitely will go on my favorite shelf because I have such a pretty edition from FairyLoot. And the next book I read was a nonfiction. I had taken a bit of a break reading nonfiction, and I still hope to be caught up on my goals. So I did wind up reading the Big Bang Theory book, which I will attach a photo of that here. The nonfiction where the author kind of interviewed all the members of the Big Bang Theory cast, and I love this show. It's probably one of my favorite comedy series I've ever watched, and seeing the backstage and all the antics and having the actual people involved in it kind of tell stories was so interesting. And I really wish more shows like do this because it's obviously a lot of work and you have to dive into a lot of like the political stuff and the stuff we don't know, but I love this book. I really enjoyed reading about it. The only thing that would make it slightly better was if like the actual actors came back to do the audiobook, because I listened to the audiobook, but I had such a fun time with this book. And I think it's probably my favorite entertainment book I ever read because it was so interesting. So if you're a fan of the Big Bang Theory, I highly recommend you check out the audiobook because it was a very, very quick listen. And then this is when I was heading to Comic-Con and I was really struggling with some reads. Oh my god, I didn't even finish Red City. Oh my goodness. I'm just remembering all the books I like abandoned mid-project, and that was one of them. But I did wind up reading Hot for Slayer by Ali Hazelwood. I'll attach a photo of that one here. That was a very, very quick 94-page novella about a vampire and a vampire hunter, and the vampire gets amnesia and they are kind of battling it out. And it was just a fun time. Quick, spicy. I love Ali Hazelwood. I really, really liked it. And if I didn't attach the photo, I'll attach it here, but I think I already did. But I gave this book 4 stars and it was fun. It was a quick read, perfect for spooky season, and I really, really liked this one. And then we are going to get into my books I got at Comic-Con, or I was inspired to pick up from Comic-Con. So I got Snowlands, Moise Mores, and this is a Blood Moon. This is a graphic novel that I got from Comic-Con. It's a kid graphic novel about animals that have to like run away from their pack and find a new pack. It comes out in February 2026, and I just really, really enjoyed the story. I don't think it was a new favorite, but I will say I probably will reread this when it does get color illustration, and maybe do panel view as well, but that's how I normally read my graphic novels. But this one was very, very cute. I'm gonna put this in my classroom and see if anyone wants it in my things, because now that they're actually can like do prizes, I think someone will grab this. But it was very, very animalistic. It was very, very Lion King-esque, and I had a fun time, and I gave it like 4 stars for review. And the next book that I read was Murder at the Wham Bam Come by Caroline Marie Wilkes. I finished this. This was my Comic-Con listening book when I was heading back and forth to the convention center. And I think I finished this on Columbus Day or Indigenous People Day. I really did like this book. This was like a book set in the 20s, and you follow a young widow, Nola Ann. She has some clairvoyant abilities, and she's kind of going back to her hometown to kind of figure out what is happening at this club that she was around when she was younger. And it's a murder mystery. I had a fun time. I think it was a lot of interesting vibes about the African-American experience in the 1920s, and I had a fun time with it, and I gave it 4 stars. I really hope we get more books in this series. And I did get this book signed to me as well. I will probably toss it in a little free library or see if anyone from my job wants it. But I did like this and gave this a 4 stars. I really want to get better at reading more diverse cozies, and this one was very, very fun. And I always like when I go to ALA at their booth, Kensington, because they do tend to have a lot of cozies. So I was happy that I got this one. And I do tend to listen to my audios, my mysteries on audio, and I did like this one quite a bit. And then I got a book that I heard about at Comic-Con, but I didn't wind up like getting an arc of it. I got Roll for Romance by Lenora Woods. I will attach a photo of that one here. This is a D&D inspired book, sort of. You basically follow this character who kind of got fired from her job, and she winds up going to stay with her best friend in Texas. Her best friend from Texas has like a D&D group, so you kind of see this main character kind of going and meeting all these new friends, and then you kind of follow their D&D campaign. It was very, very fun. It was very, very D&D-esque. I did like it. I gave the book 4 stars. You get like the modern day story about a potential romance, and then you get the story in the D&D campaign. And I used to play D&D when I was a kid. I'm in my Stranger Things era, and I had a fun time. I really hope we get more books set in this world, because it was super fun. And honestly, I would, if I ever find it on Pango, I will probably pick up a copy for my collection. And then the first book that I finished after Comic-Con was Late Night Witches by Arlie Wallace. I think I had to read this for a prompt with like a familiar main character. This book reminded me of Buffy meets Finley Donovan. And basically you have a main character who learns she's a witch, and she's like a mom with 2 kids. Her sister is a little bit complicated, and there are witches and vampires in her town, and she is a witch, and she kind of has to learn how to save the day. And it was just a fun read. A little bit on the longer side, very, very lit fic with a paranormal element. Maybe a dash of a romance, not a really, really clear romance, but I liked it, and it is set up to have a sequel. She has written cozy mysteries in the past. I would say this more as like a paranormal story with elements of a mystery, but I had a fun time with it. I liked it. Definitely gave me Finley Donovan but Buffy vibes, and I had a fun time. I gave it 4 stars. That's really what all the books were this month. A lot of them were just like enjoyable, but nothing like knocked me out of the park. And then one of the days off with my mom, I went to Target and I got Jessie Ramsey Pet Sitter, and this one is another one that is probably going to go in my classroom as well because it is a graphic novel. I love this series. The series is so cute. This one, like I said in my vlog, was like shockingly accurate to my real life work situation at the moment, and I just was feeling this book when I was reading it. Like I really had a good time with it, and for a graphic novel about for little kids, I felt a lot of it about like dealing with boss complications, dealing with micromanaging, and just a lot of that was in here, and I just really enjoyed it, and I really do like the story, so I'm gonna probably put this one in my classroom as well. So I have 2 books to go into my classroom. I have 1 book for a little free library or to go to someone at my job, 1 for Pango, and 1 I'm keeping, so that is good. I haven't put anything on Pango in so long, so I really should do that. Okay. And then after that, I read The Underachiever's Guide to Love and Saving the World by Sloane Brooks. This was another long one, and I think it was a little bit too long. I liked it, but honestly, kind of with the battle sequence things, it just bored me. I'm going to talk about that a little bit with this one, but if there's a really heavy battle sequence in a book, it's going to bore me. So this one follows 2 characters. It's definitely a hate to more romance, but they are next door neighbors, and they both are like just living like going day to day. It is dual point of view, but they both get stepped into this portal, into this alternative dimension, and they are both believed to be the chosen one, and they kind of have to work to save the day. It was enjoyable. I gave this book like 3.5 stars. I just felt like the pacing was off and it was a little bit long, but if you're looking for a very, very sassy, witty book with hate to more vibes, I would pick this one up. It just wasn't a new favorite, and kind of all my books I read this month had a little bit of that vibe. So this one is probably going to go on Pango as well because I don't think I need to keep it, so that is 2 books for Pango. So these will be on Pango tonight. And then the next book that I listened to was Hopelessly Devoted, and that was a witchy romance that I read. I gave this book like 3.5 stars, and sort of the same with this. It just was not super memorable. So I gave this book 3.5 stars. Basically follows a second chance romance, and these 2 characters were like friends when they were younger, and then they both go their separate ways, and they come back after his parents died from COVID. There is COVID talk in here, but COVID is in the past. And this girl is like very, very wealthy, and her parents cut her off because she wants to like kind of buy this tea shop. And there's a romance, and there is potential elements there that kind of have a witchy element, and she's kind of trying to find some things that are kind of affecting this town. And I liked it. It wasn't super memorable. None of these witchy books were super memorable. And I think out of all my favorites, I think this one was probably my absolute favorite. But I had a fun time. It's just not super memorable. So that one only got like 3.5 stars for me as well. And then I listened to an audiobook of Saddled with Murder by Aline Bradley. I will attach a photo of that here. Cozy that I read a couple of years ago. So this was the first book in the series. I read the Christmas one, and this was like the Thanksgiving one, but it basically follows a main character at a vet, and she kind of gets caught up in this murder, and she has to kind of solve the day. And it was fun. I really did like it. It was very, very animal focused, as the first one is. I got the last book on my audiobook, so I might finish that in November because it's a quick listen. But yeah, I gave that book 3.5 stars. It was fun. It was enjoyable. It was a quick cozy, and I did like it, so that's good. And then my last full-length physical novel that I read was an ARC from Comic-Con that I got, was Brignites and Brignites by Travis Baldari. This book I gave 4 stars. It is the 3rd book in the Legends of Latte series. This does follow Fern the bookseller that you meet in bookshops and bone dust, and this book is probably the most cozy fantasy book, I would say. There was maybe dashes of romance in here, but definitely not the thing. It basically follows the main character. She kind of decides she's going to go live in the Legends of Latte town, but she kind of decides that that's not what she wants. She goes on an adventuring quest with some other characters to kind of find herself, and that's where we meet her. It was a very, very fun book. It was very, very cozy, very, very light, very, very fantasy, epic, RPG, D&D vibes, less cozy fantasy, and a lot of like world like battling. But I still did like it. I just think I really am going to listen to these in the future. But I got a free ARC because I got a book, and he was our signing, so I decided to pick this one up. And then I also actually love this one at work, but I also read an arc of A Lovely Recipe, which is coming out in 2026. I actually had a couple of 2026 releases, so I'll attach a photo of that one here. This is a sapphic young adult or middle grade graphic novel about two girls that were kind of forced to work together as they're kind of exploring baking together, and it is a romance. It is set at the end of high school, and it was very, very cute. I really did like it. I would love to reread it with the full illustrations, but it was very, very fun, and that one was a 4-star read for me. And my only 5-star read of the entire month was Secret Haven by Catherine Cowles. I gave this book 5 stars. It will probably make my best books of the year list, because this was the end of the Sparrow's Bowl series. Follows Kyler and Fallon, and they are foster siblings, all grown up, and I love this book. It's also a marriage of convenience, a lot of found family, and we got a conclusion to their story as a family, and I really did like this one. I gave this book 5 stars. So yeah, this was not a ridiculous entertainment month easier, because I was so busy, but I will tell you what I did do. I did wind up watching, finally, I watched K-Pop Demon Hunters. I did go to Comic-Con, obviously, which was probably the biggest thing that I did. I did watch Marvel Zombies, and I watched all of the Halloween Town movies. But honestly, Comic-Con was the thing this month, and I did a haunted house with the students. It was really, really fun. And work, we're battling along. We just are. We are. So yeah, but that is all the books that I read in this month. I really hope November is more smooth and I have a lot more time to devote to reading. We will see. I will report back. But yeah, let me know in the comments what is a book that you read and loved. If I had to choose, my favorite audiobook would definitely be Secret Haven. And if I had to choose a book that I loved, I would probably pick these. These are probably my favorites. I really did like Dance with Lies, even though it did have some pacing issues. I really did like Late Night Witches. It was probably my favorite paranormal cozy or paranormal romance that I read, or paranormal story. Cozy Fantasy, Bright Nights and Bright Nights was just a fun read. And this book was just emotionally powerful for a graphic novel about a teen pet and pet sitter and animal society and babysitting stuff. Yeah, those are my favorites. And yeah, let me know in the comments what your highlight of October was. I would love to know. And I'll talk to you guys soon. Bye, friends.